This is a continued discussion from the previous episode of a Fresh Perspective podcast, catering to the latest in ingredient trends, consumer insights, and food news. Brought to you by Corbion.
Are you seeing, LuAnn, any links between companies that give additional claims on their packaging and the loyal fan base? So if there's a brand that says, hey, this is, better for you in some way, higher fiber or more nutty, like you're just talking about, Jennifer, the more, wholesome grains, are there any links between that and brand loyalty? Or is it more of, I'm just looking for a claim on any bag that says this is better for my family and I'm going to grab that loaf of bread?
That's hard for me to answer definitively, but I have some statistics here. So if you think about, so we track all these claims in this big database. And if you think about everything that goes on behind a product launch, all of that is essentially measured in a database, right? Because, and you'll see it tracks many of the things that Jennifer's mentioned today. Number one claim in U.S. bakery is GMO free. A quarter of products have a GMO free claim.
Wow,
a quarter
25%, huh?
Yeah, and this is launches, right? So it's a quarter has a gluten-free claim. About 20% have a no additive preservatives claim. About 10% has an organic claim. 10% has a whole grain fiber protein claim. One thing you have to think about is that some of the products that are just your staples are just your plain brown bread, your plain white bread. Those are maybe slightly underrepresented here, but everybody's chasing the growth and the success, right? And these high growth areas that Jennifer talked about. So for me, this tells me that this is those high growth areas, right? That people are looking for. So in terms of brand loyalty, like I said, there's going to be a split between consumers. So we can always generalize, but there are going to be some consumers that are looking for that benefit. And if they say, well, my budget is now 25% less, they will probably just look for the benefit and not be as brand loyal. And then you'll have some people that say, that Ezekiel bread, great for my gut. I don't feel good when I don't eat it. I'm eating it no matter what, right? And I'm going to eat less steak or whatever it is. So I think we're going to see a combination of these things. So I live in the Netherlands, and there was a little thing in the newspaper that said, expect a shortage of sunflower oil. And by the time I got to the grocery store, it was gone. So and today I got the memories on my phone from 2 years ago. So those kind of things can happen too, that people might start stocking up on lower priced foods, canned goods, those kind of things.
As they're available?
Because I think the sticker shock from gas prices, which really affects American consumers, is just now really starting to come through. And then I think we'll start to get a clearer picture of what's really going to happen, because a huge amount of wheat comes from Ukraine, a huge amount of oils that are used in laminated bakery products comes from that region. Like there's some real challenges that haven't come through yet, but we'll have to see how far it goes. But there might be a bit of panic buying as well.
Yeah, and probably a fair number of manufacturers who are going to have to look at how do we make what we make, right? Do we have to make some ingredient changes because we see shortages coming, or the price of certain ingredients have gone up such point that they need to reassess. Okay, how do we make this product and still make it good so that the consumer will still be satisfied? I think those days that will continue for some time.
I hear the words panic buying and I think, oh, again.
Not again.
Because we all remember the empty shelves, right? And I'm wondering about, the logistics of those empty shelves. So when we talk about the supply chain, and like you just said, with, some of the things that we're seeing that we know that is supplied by the Ukraine, do you think that this provides, I hate to ask this question and sound light about it, but do you think it provides any opportunities for maybe smaller brands to kind of get their foot in the door?
For sure. I don't think that's a terrible question, right? Because that's just opportunities. And there are companies, the oil companies are making a lot of money now as well, right? That's just the reality of the market. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I also know that I had someone call me maybe 18 months ago and said during COVID, there were a lot of, and this woman was in Germany, and she said, there's a lot of really mid-sized companies that never even had a marketing department. And now the demand for their products is huge. People are looking for organic products and all this niche that they were really in. And she said they don't know what to do because they've never had the opportunity to do this before, right? And so she said, I want to help them. And so that's what happens sometimes. So I think maybe a different like even going back to the hoarding from 2 years ago, we didn't really have an inflation issue, right? It was more,
Right.
it was a totally consumer driven panic. And this is very different because this is going to be very supply chain driven. And now we have the complication of the war. And depending on how long that goes into harvest season, can they harvest? Can they plant? Can they do all these things, right? There's just so many things that we don't know yet, right? Undetermined. So,
yeah. And in the bakery space, you complicate that with, okay, so now you can get wheat, but it's different wheat. And it doesn't bake the same, right? So there are a lot of variables that need to that bakers are going to have to continue to adjust for.
And I had a conversation with somebody on Friday about that. And I was with another colleague who's a bit younger than me. And we were talking about the solidarity that a lot of Europeans certainly feel about what's happening now. And I said, I'm sure if you put a little sticker on there and said, this tastes slightly different because, and explain to people. And that's a huge trend now is transparency. How do you storytell and whatever? We may have to tell the stories, that this is a different wheat. So therefore it's going to taste a little tougher, because whatever the reason is. I know that's difficult to do, but you might have to do it, right? To explain why it's not exactly the same.
Right.
Yeah. And Jenny, that goes back to your question. You hesitated to ask, the opportunity really is around how brands can storytell, right? How do they take something that, we all recognize as, an awful thing and try and figure out how to make good out of it, right?
Yeah.
And who has a solution to it? It's also about who can provide the solution right now.
Right. Exactly. So I think we've touched on like every major thing that's happened in the world in the last 2 years, except online shopping. So online shopping is a major, it continues to increase. And I think I got an email from my boss this morning that said, this trend is not ending. This is continuing to grow, right? This online shopping. So I would expect that brands would be coming up with plans now about how do you differentiate yourself when you're not looking at the bag, right? The packaging. Because I online shop all the time for Aldi or for Walmart or wherever. I just type in carrots and I choose, carrots, and I don't get to look at, like what's on the back of the bag and where did they come from and those kinds of things. So are you thinking that companies are looking at the same thing? And I don't know, let's get brainstorm a little. How could they, make those claims obvious when it comes to online shopping?
Well, I would think in some ways that online shopping would be the perfect place to filter some of this stuff, or that's where you're going to really find your consumers that care, right? So I mentioned right now I have a daughter who's on this 4-month, can't eat the weirdest things in the world, like honey and vanilla. And it's terrible if you have someone who's lactose and dairy free and can't have whey protein, but it's just temporary, right? But her combination is very awkward because you can get gluten-free soy sauce, but she also can't have soy. So what we finally did, we found a recipe site that you could just put in every allergy that you had, and we knocked them all out. So that was perfect. So if I could go grocery shopping and just knock it all out, and I can at our local store here, right? So for me, that's a fantastic way to do attributes. So if you had somebody who goes, I care about the environment, and I like high fiber, high protein, whatever, where are my bread choices or where are my cake choices, and I want low sugar, I think as everything gets smarter and as more things get integrated and so on, and there's all types of initiatives around smart label and all this kind of stuff. I think if your particular place isn't there yet, I think it will get there, because I think that also becomes an opportunity for earning extra money by marketing. So you don't have shelf space, but you can now say, well, I can give you a focus in our gluten-free, beautiful page or whatever,
Right. And that space is endless, right? Like that's the space that I work in. I'm a digital marketer, and I'm a full stack digital marketer. And so when I think about the leaps and bounds that online shopping has come and how there's so much more they could do, right? Like that, where I could just, instead of flipping over the bag and looking at the label, I'd love to be able to just see every label online. I'm sure there are some online shoppers that are, places that are building that into their digital infrastructure, but man, I'm looking forward to it, when it becomes kind of more mainstream. And then
Yeah.
Why would I ever walk into a store?
Well, and I think
everything right there.
Yeah, and I think we had to learn, right? The last 2 years, I think there was this huge acceleration of holy cow, we're not really set up to present ourselves well to consumers online.
Right.
And while they might be able to find them, the key attributes may not be, easily searched because we haven't set up the product the right way. So I think there's been a lot more attention to that, but there's still opportunity. There's still a lot of opportunity for companies to really make sure that when somebody's looking for a specific kind of attribute, or to LuAnn's, challenge of I need this, and not that, right? That combination of things, how somebody puts that in and searches for it will either get you found on the internet or not, right? And so it is an opportunity.
That's exactly right.
I will say I did a couple of presentations last year on personalized nutrition for some dietitian groups, and retailers are doing a lot in that space. So I think it's going to really come on. And as we do move to this very personalized way of eating, and it's not just about what I can have or what I can't have, but it's also, I still call sustainability as the great tiebreaker, right? If you have a choice of things that are almost the same price, most consumers are probably going to go for the less packaged one or better one or whatever. So I think as we continue to move into this whole personal everything, it will come and it will be super easy that you just, here's the profile of the type of shopper I am and what I like and what I don't like, and serve it up. Restaurants do that. Again, traveling with difficult child, and we were on vacation in February, and we checked into a hotel and they said, do you have any dietary restrictions? Oh my God. I'm like, sit down. And so she kind of goes through them all. But then that night,
my list.
But they gave her own menu for the rest of the weekend of what she could eat and not. It was a total surprise. And they said, here's everything that we make that you can eat.
And how did you feel about that place after that happened, right?
Yeah, I'm going back. I mean, really, I will go back because they do not say no to you. It was just a nice place, but still more and more. We went to another place on Saturday night and they called me. And we canceled one reservation. They said, is it the person with the sensitivities who's not coming, or is it someone else? But they called and they said, because we want to talk to the chef, in case she's still coming.
Wow.
It's all coming. So I think this is
Where
super
are you going?
easy to
I want to go to these places. They care that much. Oh my goodness. That's great.
But I haven't been out for 3 years, so I'm treating myself a little bit. But still, it's easy. It's not that difficult. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's not that difficult to do. So online world, there's no way we don't get there, that you just don't put in this profile and it all comes right.
It's going to be really interesting to see how things continue to unfold. And if you guys had one piece of advice, both of you are in Insights, one piece of advice. Well, if you need to have two, you can have two. But if you're talking to somebody in this space and you're talking about building their brand loyalty, what would you leave them with?
I guess my key, if I think about myself being in the manufacturer's shoes, if I have to evaluate my label, if I have to change something because of supply chain challenges, now is an opportune time to really make some choices that you might not have otherwise made, so that you can take advantage of some of those claims. I think it's really important, and it gives the manufacturer an opportunity to have new news to talk about their brand with their consumers.
What about you, LuAnn? I'm putting you guys on the spot. I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, because I repeat this all the time. Anybody who knows me, my most overused phrase, happiness in life is about managing expectations. So I think know who your consumer is and make sure that you manage their expectations. And I think that just kind of builds on what Jennifer said. This is the perfect time to do that, right? And to find out who your customer is, exactly what they want, and then find a way to deliver on those expectations. And if you have to make a change, this is the perfect time to do it, because you also have a bit of cover and so on. If you don't get it right, that's okay too. So let's take advantage of this to learn and to be able to do better for consumers as we come out of this.
Thank you very much. This has been really great.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you for listening to a Fresh Perspective podcast, brought to you by Corbion. Please like, subscribe, and follow us on thebakerstake.com and thecorbioncut.com. Until next time, preserve what matters.